Welcome to the Midlife Makeover Movement podcast. My name is Tisha, your midlife makeover maven. And our goal here is to show you, our wonderful guests, the way that we make over our midlife. So very often we feel like we're getting to midlife and we are thrown away and we don't have a lot of stories. Our intention here, though, is to share the stories of remarkable women who have overcome significant challenges to live their best midlife. Miss Amy Izzo, realtor extraordinaire. Amy, would you like to tell a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled. I'm so happy you're doing this, and I think it's phenomenal. And I'm so happy to be involved. So thank you so much. Okay, yeah, I am a realtor extraordinaire. That's true. I'm here in the Midwest. I live in Indiana, and originally from the Chicagoland area. And I'm a wife and a mom. I have 3 kids. My boys are 20, almost 23, and my daughter is 16 now. And I don't know. I'm a coach. I'm a team leader. I'm a competitive ballroom dancer. I'm a lot of things.
Yes, we're going to get into that a little bit. So Amy and I met in 2008 at a business conference in Anaheim, California. I don't know if she remembers. And Amy was significantly different than she is now, but she was kicking butt. Like, she was getting these real estate awards, and I was sitting up there like, now, hold on a minute. If she can do it, I can do it. Because one of the things that at that time, I was using weight as my excuse not to be my best self. And at that time, you were significantly heavier than me.
Yes, I was.
Yes. So in standing there, and see, we've never had this conversation before. Nope. Even in standing there and just you being the embodiment of that weight ain't no excuse, because that one over there is kicking tail. So let's work on what the real issue is. But at that time, I think we spoke in passing at that conference. Like, we didn't really have a significant conversation, but this was several years ago, before, social media is as prevalent as it is now in our life, in our business life. And so I remember you and I connected on social media, and we just kind of saw each other in passing. We were kind of in the same circle, like doing the same dance or whatever. But then I saw you changing. So let's get into that, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about? Yeah, I'm going to ask the question. So, your transformation is like super inspiring. So can you take us back to the beginning of your journey and share the pivotal moments that led to such a significant lifestyle change? So first of all, let's talk about what changed for you. And then let's talk about the beginning of that change.
So let me just set it up that I've always been overweight. I'm thinner today than I was as a teenager, right? So I've always been overweight. Now, I wasn't as significantly overweight when I was young, much younger, like teens and 20s. I thought I was, but I know in hindsight, really wasn't. Maybe I was always 50 pounds overweight, right? And so and that's important, because I had accepted in my life that this is just how we are. We are big boned. These are the cards we were dealt. This is how we are in my family. That's how we are. And so I had just accepted that and carried that through my life. And you're right. When I met you, I can't even tell you exactly, truthfully, how heavy I was. I always knew when I started this journey in 2019, I got on the scale at 400 pounds. Later, when I talked to my family doctor, after I had lost significant weight, he had a highest recorded weight of me as 440. And there were times prior to that I had not gotten on the scale. So we believe I was heavier than that. But we're going to say my highest weight ever was 440. So I'm a 5'11" tall girl, but that's a lot of weight for any frame, right? And this, although it started as a weight loss journey, it's not weight. And, you alluded to that. It's really not about weight, although weight has been the thing I have been able to release, and I'm still releasing. So I'm not done, right? Still releasing. So between 20, well, quite a bit of the 2000s, but especially between 2017 and 2019, a lot of really close family members in my life passed away. Not necessarily from weight, but from unhealthy lifestyles for sure, and some very young, tragically. My brother-in-law passed away the day before his 40th birthday. We were very close. My other brother-in-law, we were extremely close, had a incident in that time frame on an airplane, primarily due to an unhealthy lifestyle, alcohol being heavy, working, not sleeping, had a stroke and then had lived and suffered many years with it and then passed away from an aneurysm very suddenly. We were the same age. I'm a month older than him technically. And I was 43 at that time. So I'm 48 now. And anyway, we lost my mother-in-law in the middle of all that. And I had lost some, it feels to me like, you have that favorite aunt and uncle in your family sometimes, and it's the one all the kids love, and they're your buddy, and they all died, and they all
Yeah.
died young.
Yeah.
And so I had this building up on me, and I was struggling in 2018. I had been hospitalized 3 times for cellulitis, which
And
some
what
people
is that? What is that?
I didn't know what it was till I got it, and some people didn't know what it was either. I was actually on a listing appointment at a cousin's house, and I had these large hot spots, almost look like bruises, but hot to the touch on my legs. And my cousin said to me that she's a nurse, that is cellulitis. And if you don't treat it, you can, and you will likely go septic. It's very serious. She's like, you can die. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? And she's like, I'm a nurse. I'm a great one. I'm like, okay. So I went to my doctor who hospitalized me the first time immediately and said, this is not anything to play with. How long have you had this? What is going on? That you think the one time would teach me 10 days in the hospital with lots of IV fluids and learning all about why this happened, and happened because I was inactive and unhealthy. And that's exactly why it happened. So you'd think that would have been enough, but it happened to me 2 more times that year. And I would like to tell you that was the pivotal moment, but it would be another almost 11 months before I would do anything about it. So that happened. And then early 2019, I was struggling. I always did well in real estate, right? In my business. And even before that, I was in corporate business. I always did really well. And I didn't let my weight be an excuse. I was like, no matter what, I'm going to achieve. But I always did feel like I worked harder because of my weight. I think a lot of that is because I was unhealthy. And then I also decided, I don't know if this is necessarily true, because I was heavy, I didn't get all the same opportunities, but I would push through till I would get what I want. And I would eventually end up there. So I always was able to achieve, but it was so exhausting. I lived exhausted. And in 2019, I was at the brink of exhaustion that I couldn't sleep, yet I couldn't stay awake. So I would be in my office and I would be working on my computer, and I would nod off, and I would wake up like this, and I would nod off, and I would wake up like this. And that would happen to me. And it was getting throughout the year to be more and more frequent. And I was absolutely still living in denial about it. I was like, okay, well, this is just what I have to push through. And so I started to do things like I'll take naps, but I was still falling asleep everywhere. Well, I was driving my car and I stopped at a stoplight and I took a nap at the red light.
Wow.
And thank God. And that was October 21st, 2019. And I won't forget the date. There's 2 dates that month I won't forget. That's one. And nothing bad happened. I just fell asleep at a stoplight. Incredibly embarrassing. Someone had to knock on my window, my driver's side windows. The person behind me, I don't know who it is, got out of their car, tapped on my window and said, "Are you okay, ma'am?" And I was okay, and everyone was okay physically, because it could have been an accident, right? I could have hurt someone or myself. And I said, I'm okay. I'm really sorry. I was very apologetic. I immediately was tearful. And he said, okay, I just want to make sure you're okay. I said, I'm okay. I'm so sorry to hold up traffic. And I got off the road and I sobbed in my car. I don't know for how long. And I'm like, I'm going to die. That's in that moment. That's God. And whatever you believe in, God was like, you're going to die. That's where that thought came from. And I'm like, I'm going to die. And when I die at this young age, I'm going to leave children without a mother. And I'm going to leave a husband as a widower. And I'm going to leave parents who aren't, well themselves, having lost their oldest daughter. And I'm going to leave all kinds of experiences I haven't even had yet. And I'm still, the God is waking me up every day. So there's a reason, right? Because he could just put me to sleep if he was figured I was done. So I didn't tell anybody that night. I didn't even tell my husband. I got my stuff together and I went home and I took a shower and I went on with my day the next day. But it was really on my mind that I have to do something. But I didn't know what to do. I think I did, but I told myself I didn't know what to do. And I had to speak at a real estate event a day and a half later, and it was a 2-hour drive. And I became very worried that I would not be able to make the drive. So I chose to spend the night. And I made sure I was able to get there okay. And I got there fine. And another speaker who I knew fairly well, but wasn't really close to, but knew fairly well, she said, "You're not well." And she looked at me and I said, what are you talking about? And she said, you're not well. And we got through our speaking and we did great. And we spent some time together that day. And I think we talked in my car for 3.5 hours. Honestly, I just like spilled my guts on this woman. And we talked and we had dinner, and she challenged me. And she said, I want you to make a change. And she said, I want you to decide today. Now, this is October 23rd, 2019. It's my other date I won't forget. I want you to decide today, and I want you to take action today. So we know you made a real decision. We know you decided what you're going to do. And she pulled someone else in to give some guidance. That was fine. And this was my step. It doesn't mean it's the right step for everybody. I booked a weight loss surgery that day for December. Like I got on and I figured it all out and I booked it. And that is initially how I started. Now it's 2023, so it's been a long journey. I'm still on it. I'm still on it. But that's how it started. That's how it started.
You probably don't know this, but I also had weight loss surgery in 2001 or two.
Okay.
Long time ago. Well, that's another conversation for another day. So when I tell you, I know specifically that is not the end all be all. It's just a step. And it comes with its own challenges.
It does. And I tell people this, I say, I don't regret it. There are challenges from it now. Like we all know, you would know that, but I don't regret it. And it was absolutely the right decision for me because it gave me a jump start.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's what it did. It gave me a jump start and it put me in a position to make the changes I've been able to make and I'm still making. And so I will never regret it. I know that I altered my body and I know I altered my lifestyle, but it never would have completely fixed it. It never would have. But it certainly gave me the jump start I felt I needed.
So, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. You ready to move on? That is an absolutely amazing story. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable in that story. So let's talk about entrepreneurship, right? So, that's how we met each other. And, as a small business owner, like how has the discipline and resilience required in entrepreneurship influence your approach to weight loss and your personal transformation?
Well, I feel like the transformation has influenced the business, the entrepreneurship. And although, I've always been, by my own definition, we define success. I've always been really successful in real estate and even in my past career. But we'll just focus on where I've been the last 9 years, which is real estate, right? Entrepreneurship. And I've always been really successful there by my definition. And so my definition was always a certain income, just to be able to sustain my lifestyle, support my family, be comfortable, be able to help people. Those were the kinds of goals I've always had, and I've been able to meet them and beat them, always. But there was something about focusing on me, improving myself. My business soars now. And I often wonder, well, I don't really wonder, but I've had the thought because, wow, and this is not but if I had started sooner, imagine what my business might have been able to be sooner. Because I did this recently. I got this idea because I was doing a presentation to a group of realtors, and I thought, and it was about health. I was asked to speak about it. And I was like, oh, I wonder if we lined up my business performance with the timeline. So looking at, the end of 2019 through, at that time, it was the end of 2022. If we looked at my health journey on a graph alongside my business, my revenues, my relationships in business, what would that look like if we could graph it? When my health started to come up, even just early, my business started to come up. So the discipline, honestly, if I should show you this, but every milestone in health, so weight loss, more energy, my revenues went up, my profits went up, and I have more relationships, and my existing relationships got stronger because people saw me improving and reached out, and some reached out to say, we've been praying for you. And I was like, you have? And they're like, well, before we knew you were making changes. People were worried that loved me, that were doing business with me, that I was going to be sick or die or something terrible. I didn't know that. They were praying for me.
That's interesting. Did you have any relationships that did not get better? Did you have to lose any people along your
for
journey?
Sure.
Okay.
Lots of loss. And that's what was more prevalent in the beginning, was seeing the losses. I was like, oh, but trusting that this is the path, that all worked itself out. Some of those folks came around, and some of those folks were just not engaged anymore. And that's okay. That's okay. It was that's not about me.
Of course.
It's not about me. It's probably weren't the right relationships. So I will say this. The commitment and the discipline I had to learn to improve myself, my health, has spilled over into my business. And I worked much harder in my business for discipline and commitment to achieve my goals than I have to work now. Now I have a plan, I follow a plan, and I have way more time. I can finish up a day sometimes early and go do something fun. Pretty frequently I can, because the things I needed to do in my business that day are done. I'm taken care of. I go first. I'm taken care of first, right? I just have more energy, and so I'm more productive because I can get through things at a better pace, and I'm not rushing.
Did you always put yourself first in your business, or did that happen as a result of the weight loss journey?
Never put myself first until when we ended up in our little group together in 2020. All right, I invited you to the call, and that's when I started to learn about, oh, it's okay for me to be first. See, I believe I was raised this way, and I don't believe that it was intentional. Okay. But if you look at the history of my family, lots of blue collar working people, children, older children, I'm the oldest, running the household, taking care of things. And your worth was determined by how pleased the adults around you were. So as a little girl and a teenager, and I brought that with me, I take responsibility. It wasn't my fault, but I brought it with me into adulthood. I determined my value based on everyone around me, right? Did I get good enough grades, right? Did I win this award or in this contest I entered in school? Did I do the dishes? Did I get the homework done? Did I make dinner correctly? Right? Did I say the right thing that that person needed or wanted to hear? Was I kind enough? Was I thoughtful enough? It was a lot of pressure.
Yeah, you learn very quickly to be invisible and that your love language is service. And so you have been taught that the way I get love is by serving and taking care of other people, often at the extent of myself. Ask me how I know.
Yes. I we know, right? You
We
know.
know, we know. And at
And
some point, you realize it's no longer serving you.
no, and what I always did, and I didn't allow myself to recognize it, is I coped with food.
Yes,
That's what I coped with.
absolutely.
And I
Me
still
too.
have tendencies where I want to cope with food, but I just don't anymore.
And again,
Catch it now. I can catch it now.
in my research, we call that, I read a book, it's called Counterfeit Comforts. And really that's kind of where we go. You know, we go to the space that will soothe us when we have like a maladaptive strategy for life. But, you know, that leads me into the next question, which is the support system and how important that is. So building a successful business and undergoing such a transformation requires a strong support system. So, how have your friends, family, colleagues contributed to your journey? And you can speak a little bit about our group that we were in together as well.
Yeah. So the big thing for me was meeting Steve Trezick and getting into the 90-day transformation group.
Yeah.
I believe it's had a few iterations now, and I'm still in it. I've been in it since May of 2020. And I have people that are like, when are you going to stop that group? I'm like, I don't know. When I feel like I'm done, I'm still in it. Um, so every 90-day, a group of us meet and we meet every week, but it's a 90-day kind of, we're managing how we're doing in 90-day increments. And I would say the majority of that work is mindset and making the shift here so you can make the shift everywhere else. Like Steve has never told me what to eat. He's never told me what not to eat. He has coached me on exercise when I've asked, and we've talked about that, my exercise to a specific goal, but he's also not said, here's the workout to go do. Like he's never given me a plan. What he's given me is tools to change my mindset, to allow myself to understand how I got to a place that I valued my worth based on service and everyone else, and I didn't put myself first, really ever. So until my mid 40s.
Steve is amazing at that. Probably the best motivational. I don't want to call him a speaker, but he really is the embodiment of, he practices what he preaches. And he, at the point that I started the journey, was exactly what I needed, to kind of, and I agree with you. I didn't need anybody like pounding my head about, you didn't do this right and you didn't do that right. You didn't have the right food. It was really about challenging what those limiting beliefs were for me at that time and providing a safe space to be vulnerable. He's amazing. And I'll make sure that when we post this, that I put a link into where people can find him and you.
And this is why your friends are important. You asked about friends. So I met him through my friend Gail Zintek, right? Mm-hmm. And Gail saw me changing. She saw a couple of photos early on, and she had been on a health journey. And she was like, what is she doing over there? And she reached out and said, can we have a conversation? And I'm like, sure. What do you want to talk about? And we had our conversation, and she's like, you're changing. What are you doing? And I was like, and I hadn't told anyone I had weight loss surgery. I was a little bit ashamed. I hadn't told anybody. And at that point, that's all I was doing. And I was, of course, eating better. I wasn't moving, or I wasn't that far along. I was very early, just a few months in. And I told her, and she was like, you have to meet Steve. So I was like, oh, okay. So I I thank God for that she picked up the phone and said, hey, you're changing. Let's have a conversation. And then and got me over to this group, because this really has allowed me to put myself in an environment where I would be supported in the change, because my household was not the environment. I love my husband, but my husband and my children were not the environment. And in hindsight, I was an unhealthy person, right? And so was my family. So, and not, my kids were raised that way. And they didn't, no, not that they had weight problems or anything like that, but we weren't, I wasn't talking or teaching anybody how to eat well. Neither was my husband. I wasn't modeling the behavior of that or of activity. And what I was doing sometimes is yo-yo dieting and then quitting. And so what my family saw is a lot of starts and stops and a lot of failures. And so, not that they couldn't be supportive, but that was not the environment we were in. So I was living in an environment that was unsupportive just by the nature of the way things had always been. And now for me to come in and change myself shook up the whole house. Like, what is she doing? Right. And I needed another environment, and I just didn't have it in my friend group or my parents or like my cousins. Like, I didn't have it there. So I was like, where am I going to get it? I got it. I got it on Zoom every week and built strong relationships with a whole slew of people, some of which are in the group and some of which have moved on from the group, but we're still all in relationship, right? So that really made a difference for me, because I always knew I had a group I could go to for the support that would be needed along the way. And I still do.
It's important that I really want to emphasize this point, because oftentimes we don't start because we don't have the support. And fortunately, COVID taught us nothing else, was that we have the ability to find a virtual support group if need be. And oftentimes we stay stuck because our environment does not support our change. And in fact, I really like the fact that you said that your environment really, I don't want to, they were unsupportive only because they hadn't learned it yet. And so sometimes what we have to remember is sometimes we got to go out and get it ourselves and bring it back, rather than expecting that the silo that we're living in is going to provide the support that we need. And often if we're waiting for it to come from the people closest to us, it's not, because people are living in their comfort zone. And oftentimes there's a benefit to people not changing in our environments, because what I'm sure happened, and I can't speak for you, is that you started setting some boundaries. You started making some changes. One of the things that you said that I heard that I thought was so important, I believe you were talking about your husband, in that you were inviting him to make the changes with him, but you weren't requiring him to do that. And I think sometimes when we start to make a change, we start requiring people around us to change. And that's not fair. We each have our own journey. And what I love about you saying that is you didn't let that environment hinder. It was an obstacle, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't let it hinder you from doing what you felt like you needed to do for you. And that's important.
No, and in past I had been like, we're going to eat like this. We're going to do this. There's not going to be any cookies in this house. And then, but this last time when I was like, that's not fair. It's not fair to everybody else. And if I can't ignore the cookie on the counter, I have a different thing to deal with. I need to deal with, why can't I ignore the cookie on the counter? What is going on? More important than why, what is going on? Right? What is going on? And, that's different for everybody. For somebody, it may not be weight or food. It may be alcohol. It may be other things. But for me, that's what it was. And so when I got honest about that and dealt with that, it became, okay, I'm doing this no matter what. This is what I'm doing. And you don't have to come along. It's okay. But I'm going to keep doing it, So, and it tested my marriage. It tested relationships with my children. I remember, I'll tell if I can.
Please.
So I got in the habit of working out every day. Now, when I first started, my goal was to walk 15 minutes a day, because that's all I felt I could do, almost 400 pounds. So, and I got in a habit, and I would walk. Oh, sorry.
Hold on. That's important. I
Yeah.
want you to put a pin in that, because there are people who think that that window, and there'll be a judgment around that. So
Oh,
let's talk about why that was a significant goal for you and how you built from there.
so in the past, when I had tried to start moving my body, doing some activity, I would read everything and okay, you have to work out 30 minutes a day, 60 minutes a day. You have to do all these things. And I would take on too much and I would shut down at some point, sometimes in a couple of days, often within a month, right? I would shut down. And I just was like, I can't do this. It's too hard. I'm not built like this. When I got into the transformation group with Steve, I told him my plan. And I don't even remember what it was, but he was like, how much do you do now? Activity. And I said, none. He's like, okay, why don't we set a little tiny goal that you think you could do every single day? I'm like, 7 days. He's like, 7 days, every single day. What we do every day, right, matters more than what we do every so often. So I was like, I don't know. We kind of talked about it for a while and I don't remember, but I landed on 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, well, I could go for a 15-minute walk per day. And I said, well, I don't know what that's going to do. 15 minutes. I mean, look at me, I'm 400 pounds. And he's like, let's just do it for a week. 15 minutes a day and just report back every day. So that's how I started. And here's the thing, by day 2, it was a 30-minute walk. It was really a limiting belief that I couldn't do the activity at the state I was in. But the first day I walked 15 minutes and came back and I was like, I could have gone more. So the next day went a little farther. And that went on for a year, because I walked 30 minutes. Oh, I walked 40 minutes. Oh, this is an hour alone, right? I can walk an hour. Then it became, okay, I'm going to dedicate an hour of walking. Could I walk a little faster, right? And I have a subdivision with these roundabouts, and they have little sidewalks on them, and they're not really to walk on. You can kind of like walk across the street and go around. It's there to drive around, right? But you can walk around them if you want. Nobody ever does, really. Or you can sit on them and just hang out. Nobody really does that either, but they're pretty. And I started a game where I would walk to the roundabout. When I got there, I'd have to run around the roundabout. And then I would walk to the next roundabout. And so I created all these little games with myself and had my music. At first, I didn't have that either, but I was like, oh, I could bring my music. I could listen to a podcast. I could jam out. I started running on the hook of every song. So I'd be jamming out something I liked. And then as soon as the hook came, I'd run. And it was slow as hell. I mean, I'm not a runner, still not a runner. It was slow as hell. But I was like, okay, can I run for the first line of the hook? Can I run the whole hook? And I got healthier and healthier. But the reason is I built my confidence around what I could do.
I love it. I love it. The next question was going to be about mindset shifts, but I think that you just kind of nailed it. Really? It's about, the small things.
But I was doing one of those walks one day and we were having company. And I said to my son, I had done my chores and I was going to go do my workout, come back and be ready for my family. And I gave my son his chores and he was, I don't know, 20. And he said, well, we have company coming. You don't get to work out. You get to get ready for company. Why do I get to have to do this while you go? Never mind what I had just done everything. And I was like, I have done my chores. I don't have to explain myself. And my workouts are non-negotiable, whether the Lord himself is coming here. Because I'm going to go do this workout. You're going to do your chores. And I'm going to come back and shower and be ready for the family. And he was like, okay. And he did his stuff. And I really think my family after that was like, she's not playing. Like everybody was waiting for me to quit. Everybody's waiting. And that's not, I don't want to say like they wanted me to quit, but that's all they ever saw. My children were raised with a mom that succeeded in business, but quit on herself a million times. And maybe they wouldn't have verbalized that, but that's the truth. I would start and stop and start and stop and yo-yoed my way up. And that's what they saw. So when I really got serious, that everybody was like, how long is this going to last? I say waiting for me to quit. I don't think they were thinking that, but they were thinking, how long is this going to go on? When is this going to be over? Now there's no, like, they know this is just how I live.
Did you have to convince yourself of that initially, or did you have to convince them? Like, when was the shift that you decided no matter what? Was that early on, or was
Early.
that over? It was early. Okay.
First 90 days because it was hard. Because I was like every day, 7 days, I'm going to do this every single day. And I was doing it early in the morning for the most part. So it really wasn't, which was better for me, but it really wasn't impacting anybody else's day. Maybe on weekends, I would do it at a different time. But there were times when I'm like, oh, I can't do this thing yet because I have to take care of me first. Then I can do that thing, so I was making sure like I was done by the time I could see my daughter off to school, for example, or drive her to school, for example, when I was driving her. So, so the habits that were changing was I would be like, okay, you got to get yourself ready. I'm going to run out and do my, walk. I'll be back. Then I'll take you to school. Right. Or no, I can't answer that question right now because I'm going to go do this workout and then I'm going to come back. But I had to give myself permission a quadrillion times to put myself first, Like, if I can take care of me, I feel better. And it was true. I was feeling better. So then I can take better care of everyone else. So difficult in the beginning. It's much easier now, but so difficult. Maybe the whole first year, so difficult to do, but it was just a non-negotiable for me. Like I didn't want to die. I really thought that's where I was.
I just want to take that in because the point that I want to reiterate to our audience is that we often believe that the resolve comes first. Mm-hmm. The resolve does, right? So you make the decision you're going to change, but the how to, the what to, the creating the environment that supports that comes over time. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I liken it to being a muscle, and the muscle of self-care is just like anything. If you don't use it, it will atrophy. If you've ever had it at all. And it sounds like you and I had a similar upbringing in that we did not see ourselves as important. So it was take care of everybody else. And my importance comes from making sure that everybody else is happy until you're sick and tired. And, something, for you, it was a major life event going to the hospital. For some people, it's something different. But you get to what we call, or I've heard the term, the day of disgust. The day that you say that I'm absolutely disgusted with this situation, even though I don't know what's going to change, how it's going to change, how to put the pieces in place, this can no longer be. And you describe that in being in the car and having the conversation. We all have that day. And sometimes it's not a major significant event. It's a series of small things that you've decided, okay, enough is enough. But what I want to point out is a lot of times we don't start because we want to have all the answers first. Mm-hmm. And that comes over time. You just got to be willing to take that first step. And then it sounds to me like subsequent support systems came as you were moving along your journey. I think that's absolutely phenomenal.
Absolutely. And still are coming, right? Still are coming. And I will say, I didn't understand or consider the real power of just starting so tiny, like really so tiny. And I remind myself of that all the time. I'm really proud of that. Like, I know we're going to talk about this, but I am a competitive pro-am ballroom dancer.
Well, why don't we talk about it now?
3 years ago, I was hoping I could walk 15 minutes a day.
So let's take that in. Let's take that in. The journey from I can only walk 15 minutes to now I'm a competitive ballroom dancer in a span of 3 years. So let's talk about that. So ballroom dancing is a unique choice for fitness, right? So what prompted you to start dancing, and how has that, like, I've watched it, it's been magnificent to see, but tell me how that came about and how it became such an integral part of your health and fitness journey.
So it is definitely now part of my health journey. And I know that it is good for fitness. When I say this, it's not that I don't know, but I never let it or wanted it to be a fitness part of the fitness journey. So when I started walking 15 minutes a day and exercising, I started to get curious over about a year and a half period. I started to get curious about what else I could do. And so I would like try to climb a tree. I climbed up on a wall with my friend Gail, right? I would go to her house and walk around her big lake. I think it's 4 miles around. I'd paddleboard. I jet ski. I rode a roller coaster with my daughter, right? Just what could I do? Because all these things I never thought I could do. Some, yes, because I couldn't because of size. Some I probably could have, but I was fearful. And I started journaling about it just for me. And I remembered being a teenager, and I remember trying out to be a sailorette. And the sailorette at the high school, we were dancers, right? And that's what we were. And I didn't have any dance experience, but I really wanted to make the team, right? And so in like 14, 15 years old, I was like, I wrote about how I was trying so hard, and I could remember it vividly. And the environment I lived in didn't really support that. So I was at a friend's house, and their mom, who was a single mom, was supportive. And she would watch me do all my practices, and she helped me figure out my audition. And I auditioned and I made the team. And I was like, now I'm going to get to dance. I always wanted to dance. And I joined it, and I had to quit like right away because my family was like, you can't commit to this. You have responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. So I had to quit, and I never got to do it. And I kind of tucked it away. And when I got curious through the activity, I was like, I wonder if I could dance now and what that would look like. I didn't know anything about ballroom dancing. If you had asked me what a ballroom dance was, I couldn't have even told you. That's the truth. When I went into the ballroom studio the first time, so there's a ballroom studio in my area, and I reached out to them. And when I went in the first time, like, what do you want to learn? Do you watch Dancing with the Stars? Of course, I know what it is, but I had never watched it. And like, what dance do you want to learn? I'm like, what? Can you give me a list to choose from? I don't even know what to tell you. I just know I want to dance because I always wanted to dance, and now I think I can. And they were like, sure, and they said, well, how about we just introduce you to a few and see what you think. So ballroom dancing for me was going to be an activity that I was going to do for fun once or twice a week. That's all I was going to do so I could give back to myself outside of my fitness and health journey. And I didn't know it was going to be good for fitness. I know that might seem like wild. I didn't know I was going to do it on a higher level. I just wanted to get away without my family. Now my daughter does it without my family and have a little fun, right? Because all the things I was doing to invest in me was health related, and I was loving it. But I was like, I need a hobby. I never allowed myself to have a hobby ever. So that's how it started. When I got there though, I fell in love with it. And I realized it would be good for fitness, but I did make a goal for myself, or a boundary for myself, that I would not let it replace my other activity.
So it was only going to be in addition to.
Only going to be in addition to, and I wanted to keep it fun. And it has become competitive, but it is still fun. So, yeah.
So speaking of, let's talk about your national competition. So, I mean, that is just impressive, period. So just talk a little bit about your experience in preparing, and like, it's such a huge event. So talk a little bit about that.
Fun. So I was dancing in the studio for fun, and I was doing really, really well, enjoying it. And I started dancing more and more. And I understood from another student that there were some competitive opportunities. And I was like, oh, am I too old for that? And my teacher, bless his heart, was like, no, people compete in their 90s. He's like, everyone competes at all ages. And they taught me a little bit about what that would look like. And I decided last October that I was going to compete in November of 2023. So I gave myself just under a year to prepare. I just picked Vegas. It sounded really cool to me to dance at the Bellagio in Vegas, to be able to say that the little girl that wanted to dance, that didn't get a chance to dance, was now healthy enough to dance at the Bellagio in Vegas. I thought that was the thing, right? So I made that my goal. And I just started to learn all the things, the commitment, the discipline, all of the things that maybe judges would want to see and that you would want to do dancing with a partner competitively on a ballroom dance floor. And so it's been amazing. I mean, I've practiced 5, 6 times a week, sometimes a dozen times a week for all 11 months. I've had an opportunity to coach with world champion, retired now dancers that that now travel the world and just teach pros and amateurs that dance with pros how to compete. I've met amazing people all at my studio, in my studio, even in my community that don't compete, that just are there dancing socially for fun, to meet other people and to be healthy and fit. And I just love it. It's the greatest challenge of my life that I've taken on. Ballroom dancing is mental and physical all at the same time. You have to have the confidence and the belief in yourself, and you have to be able to visualize what you want to do, but then you have to physically be able to do it. And it's physically very taxing, which is why it's so great for fitness. Even though I say it's not about fitness, it has been really great. It has changed the shape of my body. It really has. It has changed, brought my waist in. And I know that's from all the hip and motion moving back and forth at the hips. And it's really changed my body, but it has transformed my mindset to another level outside of what I had already been able to do through my fitness. It has made me get comfortable in the skin I'm in, even if it's not the body I envision yet. It's made me be vulnerable in front of other human beings and with one other partner that is not, like my husband, or not like my daughter, or, just another human that I've gotten to know on the dance floor. And it has taught me how to continue my discipline and commitment, but also how to channel emotions in a safe but different way. I have learned that I'm a natural performer and I like to perform. I did not know that. Now, my good friends say, we knew that.
Yeah.
I did not want to perform. The first time my teacher was like, oh, let's do a little tiny in-studio performance. This was before I was considering competition in the studio. It's just the students. It's no big deal. I'm like, I'm not performing. I was scared to death. I'm not doing that. And he's like, no, I think you'll like it. I'm like, no, I won't. I won't like it at all. They talked me into it. And I'm like, fine, I'll do it. And Paris, who's my dance partner now, I'll never forget. He wanted me to I was dancing with a partner, Jonathan, and Paris was kind of coaching us through the theatrics of it for this particular, it was my first performance, little single swing. And Paris was like, okay, Jonathan, and the feeling for this dance is Jonathan is your boyfriend. And so you're going to and he wants to be with you, but you don't want to be with him. And so, but you're going to fall in love with him by the end of the dance. And it's like a minute 30. It's not a long dance, right? And he wanted me to do these motions and things. And I'm like, I'm not looking at him like I love him. I'm not doing it. I don't do that. I don't act. Paris is like, but you will. I was like, no, I won't. And I did. And then they made me go first, which I had no idea until they called my name. I was like, why is the newest student at the studio first? And they're like, and then what are you going to do? They're calling your name. You just have to go do it. But in that moment on the dance floor, it's hooked. As soon as they started playing the music and I started dancing with my partner and everyone was watching and cheering, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. As scared as I was, went away in an instant. And that's when I was like, how much more of this performing can I do? And I learned about competition. And it really is more for me. Like when I really am dancing, I know the energy of the people are there and I do love that, but it's also not there. I'm just
Right.
in my head doing what I want to do for me. And I always thought I wasn't creative. I always said I'm not creative. No matter like people that craft or they do whatever I thought was creativity. If I thought you were creative and I was complimenting you, I was also saying, like comparing myself and going, but I'm not that. I wish I had that, but I don't. I am creative. It's just I hadn't found my thing. This is my thing. Find your thing.
So
Now, got a medal. I got a medal.
that is awesome. So we started off with, hey, I'm going to start with 15 minutes a day to now I have gotten a medal from having danced competitively. What were the celebrations of the milestones along the way? What did you do to set these small goals to kind of celebrate your accomplishment?
Well, I made a rule that I cannot celebrate with food because was my coping mechanism. So I never celebrate anything with food. But I celebrated in the beginning, small, a few minutes. In the beginning, when I was walking 15 minutes a day, I would celebrate with, I get a few minutes to jam out to some music, right? Let's just listen to some music. I get a few minutes to go read something I want to read, like for fun, not, business, just for fun. Those are things I like to do. I get 30 minutes to watch a TV show that I've been taping and I'm behind on, and I wasn't taking the time to watch. And then when I started to get healthier, I started to buy clothes. I don't know if people want to do that. Got expensive.
Wow. I started
But I started to
thrifting.
buy clothes. And when I say started, I mean still am buying clothes. So then, yeah, like I treat myself with like little things, a massage now, or a favorite outfit or a new outfit, or it's a pair of shoes, a little pair of earrings. Doesn't have to be anything expensive. Some of that, I know a lot of that is shopping, but just doing something for me, taking a time out for me, going for a drive, go watch a movie by myself. I would go to the park by myself, like a really pretty park in my area that I wanted to go to, and go sit and look at the pond. I just I journal. That was for me. That was a reward for me. Even now, if I do my workout in the morning like I'm supposed to, I practice my dance at the end by myself. That's my like treat. I get after my workout, I get to dance a little by myself. That's my treat. So and that makes me happy. It brings me joy. And so I've learned to find things that bring me joy and use those for celebrations.
That's phenomenal. So, a couple more questions. Now that you've accomplished so much, what are your future aspirations? Like, what's next for you? You've come so far. Do you have anything else that you, either in your business or your personal life, that you aspire to moving forward?
Well, the two big things, and I would say the one biggest thing, personally, it is dance related, is I'm going to dance with my daughter in January. My daughter is 16. A lot of 16-year-olds are not like wanting to dance with their mommy. While I will say this, while I have been just taking care of me, my family members have made changes without prompting, and it's taken a few years. But my daughter watched me go through this ballroom journey, and very quickly, like I was 3 months in, I wasn't even competing yet. She got interested and was like, "Mom, could I dance?" And I was like, at first I was like, "That's for me." In my head, I was like, but then, of course, I was like, okay, let's talk about it. So she's become a dancer. She does not compete, although I think she will in the future. But she has decided to make my dreams come true without prompting. And she and I are going to dance together in January at a local event. It'll be a pretty big event, though, a couple hundred people. And we're going to do a dance together. So that is my big goal in dance next. It's just to dance with my kid. Because how special. We'll remember that forever.
Forever.
Forever. And I am going to compete next year in Greece, in Athens. I'm really excited.
You're going to love Athens. It's amazing.
I can't wait. So I'm going to compete in Athens. I hope that Caitlin will compete with me. I think that she will. And I am really serious now about building out my real estate team. I have a small team in the Midwest, and I'm going to build it out because I believe I am positioned to help people change their lives and earn the money they need to do that. They'll define their success. I'll just help them with the path. So I built a small team and I've kept it small, and I'm done with that. And I'm going to speak this year. I want to get out and speak because I think that my story can inspire.
Yeah,
I'm going
it
to speak
can.
this year.
It can. It
Those are my
absolutely
goals for
can.
2024. And I'm going to keep dancing.
All right. So the last question I was going to ask you was about inspiring others, but you just answered that question.
Yeah.
So moving forward, if you had a couple things, how do you hope that your story will inspire and motivate others, both in business and personal? That's number one. But number two, to the one who was you before you started, what would you say?
Ooh, okay. Now she's gonna make me cry. I'm gonna just go there. I would say just hold on and just keep taking steps, you know? Sorry. If I had to talk to me, I would just say just keep taking steps. Small steps are the big steps. Um, sorry. Um, really, that's the truth. And that's what whoever hears us needs to hear is just take the small steps. The phone call is the small step, but it's such a big step. And it doesn't feel that way in the moment. It feels desperate. It feels like, I don't even know why I'm dialing this phone or getting on this Zoom or going to this meeting or booking out weight loss surgery. Like, I don't even know, but I just am doing it, right? These are the small steps. Walking 15 minutes a day. I'm like, what the hell is that going to do? It has changed my life. I've lost over 270 pounds, but more than the weight, I've changed my whole life. I've changed the trajectory of my family forever. My family, even though I started late and that is a regret, it really is because I wish on one hand I'd raised my children a little differently with these lessons, but it's not too late, and I am teaching them by modeling the behavior. And I wasn't even trying to model the behavior. Honestly, I was just trying to stay alive long. I was trying to stay alive longer, but now I get to put more life in the years, however many of those I get. I get to put more. I don't even think about living longer anymore. I think about more life in the day to day, and that I've changed the trajectory of my family forever by taking the small steps. I never knew that. I never knew that was possible. And what the hell else did you ask me?
You answered the question. What do you want to inspire others with? You answer that question, and you answer the question, what would you say to yourself? You
Okay,
did.
good.
And that is just it's a very emotional time. And again, the goal of this conversation is what I realized when I was in menopause and turning 50 and living in a chaotic household and eventually going through a divorce is that I needed a word. I needed someone to show me that it doesn't have to be this way forever, that I have the power to change, even though I don't know how. And to hear you say you lost 270 pounds, that is huge. But bigger than that, what you said was you changed the trajectory of your family.
Forever.
And that's what we do when we take care of ourselves.
By taking care of me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like mind blowing to me still, even though I know it, I'm living it, I believe it. It's like mind blowing to me still, which is what inspires me to keep going.
Absolutely. And guess what? You can
Yeah.
do it in midlife. It doesn't have to be Like, we cannot go back and relive what we didn't do in the past, but we can take this midlife moment and move a generation forward just by taking care of ourselves. Amy Izzo, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Tell people how they can find you.
Okay, well, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram. So Amy Izzo is the best way. So, oh, yeah. So Facebook's probably the best way. You can find me there, Amy Izzo. And seriously, I don't care who you are, reach out to me. I want to help. So reach out to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks for having me. This was so fun. I love it. Bye.